or could we not see a zoning table? As Margot said, she hadn't seen one in years. I would like to see that as well before we could make a decision fully on this.
Oh, as far as the map is concerned?
Yes,
well, I think a map's not going to really tell you unless you want us to break it down into available areas. That's what we have to do.
That's what I'm talking about.
If you want a map to break down the retail and commercial, we can do that and get it to you for sure.
Because we zone them on purpose, correct? I mean, they're zoned specifically for those uses.
Yeah, I mean, you can, I guess the point being is that you'll see the zoning map and you'll see the land, the vacant land properties, but you're going to have to really understand, if you're looking at that strictly at that, you need to understand the surrounding properties. You're going to have to understand what's existing out there. There's a lot more detail to it than just looking at the map and saying that that's just a vacant piece of land.
I understand you were saying that the use for that property behind the Ford house, you know, would be hard to do for a retail property. I understand that, but I could also see we have a dental, you know, facility or something. I mean, I just want to see. I would like to see what we have on zoned as, because that is an awful lot of multifamily in that one area, and we do have residents that live in that community there. And one of the things you said that y'all had spoke with the HOA and the president, but I would like to know how many people were in attendance at that meeting, because the way it was said, there wasn't very many present. And that's a lot of homes that people own in that area.
Well, they made an invitation out to the HOA. Mark, you here?
Yeah.
I don't know how many people were in attendance to that. I think it was only one person.
We sent an invitation out to everybody. I think it was 250 feet, 200 feet for sure, and we gave them, I think, 2.5 weeks notice. And we specifically also invited members of the HOA. The only person who showed up was from the HOA.
So there was only one person present, and that's a lot of homes to put a bunch of multifamily in that area. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. This question's for Pete or Robert. With this industrial area and what we're doing, the SUP process with assisted living, could this come in conflict with the Fair Housing Act in any way?
Well, again, that would depend on whether, a lot of the case law is starting to develop, Mr. Russo, that is characterized, denial of these type units, under as civil rights violations under Title VII and so forth. So, but again, those are case by case basis, and I think that you have to, at least allow for them somewhere, which is what Robert's attempted to do. But again, these are the suggestions as he's seen from the survey of cities that he's done, and council can adjust this as you see, as he mentioned to Ms. Nielsen, that you can do. So,
No further questions.
Seeing no other questions of staff, I will go ahead and open the public hearing, and we'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council to this being a city-initiated request. Obviously, we've already heard from the applicant, but I will ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the council. Please feel free to do so.
Ben Liable, 215 Trout. I guess we could sit around open all day and possibly into next year as to how many possible uses may come into that area. But we've got one right now.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address council? And with that being said, I will go ahead and close the public hearing, and will ask, it's in the council's hands to determine what they would like to do at this point. Going all John. Ms. Smith.
Can I move that we table this discussion for maybe a month so we can have a little bit further input on this? Make a decision harshly either way until we can.
Okay, I do have a motion on the floor. Let's see if we. Motion on the floor, looking for a second. Without a motion, without a second on the motion, of course, motion does die. Direction from council. Okay. We will move forward. Ms. Smith, are you still on? Okay, thank you. We will move forward to Z2011-011, hold a public hearing and consider approval of an ordinance for a request by Misty Phillips and others for approval of a zoning change from agricultural district to residential office district on property totaling approximately 3.25 acres overall and comprised of tract number 6.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
was there a vote on Ms. Smith's motion?
No, sir. We didn't get a second. I have a motion with no
Oh,
second.
no second.
Yes,
So the case is still before you for either another motion or
Okay.
We need to do
So at this
something
point,
with,
we will take some action.
do something.
Yeah.
you know, your options would be to table it for some period of time, as Ms. Smith indicated, so that you can study it and gather more information. You could, obviously approve it, but clearly that's not gonna happen. You could, deny it. Or you could, study it for additional changes. There are issues there that we do need to get resolved at some point.
Yes, sir.
So what I would suggest you might want to do is consider tabling it for some period of time and evaluate what changes you would like to make, if any, or you could deny it at that point.
Okay, with that being said, we do have a line. Ms. Nielsen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like every recommendation that's on the table right now. My concern is not requiring an SUP with multifamily, office, retail, and commercial districts. Multifamily I don't care about, but
For
the
both
SUP.
congregate and assisted living?
Well, I'm specifically looking at assisted living because that's the one that surprised me so much when all of a sudden they were going up and we didn't know about it. I don't know that that's the amendment for congregate, is it?
I think congregate is recommended to be permitted in general retail and commercial. Assisted living is recommended to be permitted in multifamily, commercial, general retail and commercial. And it's up to you to choose if you wish to follow that recommendation or require those to be an SUP. You can certainly do that.
I'll move that we accept the amendments to the code in congregate care with the amendment that an SUP be required for office, retail, or commercial districts with assisted living. And I'm sorry, Robert, I can't find the exact,
And with congregate care as well.
and congregate care.
Okay.
So it's the same districts, right?
Do they
Same
match?
districts.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor. Mr. Daniels?
I'll second that motion.
Do have a motion on the floor. Do have a second. We'll call, I guess we'll be in a position here where we'll have an ordinance to be read.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Rockwall, Texas, amending the Unified Development Code, Ordinance 0438 of the City of Rockwall is heretofore amended by amending Article 4, Permissible Uses, providing for a penalty, a fine not to exceed the sum of $2,000 for each offense, providing for a severability clause, providing for a repealer clause, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Ordinance having been read, I will call for your vote. And the motion does pass with those present 4-2. That being said, now we will move forward to Z 2011-011, ordinance for a request by Misty Phillips and others for approval of a zoning change from agricultural district to residential office district on property totaling approximately 3.25 acres overall and comprised of Tract 6, 4031 North Goliad, Tract 21, 4037 North Goliad, and Tract 22, 4035 North Goliad of Abstract 187, the J. Strickland Survey, situated along the west side of North Goliad, south of Wyndham Drive, within the North State Highway 205 Overlay District, and take any action necessary. Robert?
Mr. Mayor, Misty Phillips is the owner of the property to the far north property, 4037 North Goliad. And on behalf of herself and two other owners, the owners to the south of her, 4035 and 4001, I've requested the, that's not 01, I'm sorry, it's 31. It requested a zoning change on the property. It's currently zoned ag, and they were actually going to come in and ask for the RO zoning, the residential office zoning in this particular area. If you're familiar with Ms. Phillips, she's been involved with some renovations on North Goliad in the past in our PD 50 district, and she's taken, I believe, at least 3 of the properties over there and renovated those properties that she has owned, and turned those properties into offices and some other uses that are currently there now. And actually done a very good job of that and renovating those properties. These properties on the north end of town, they're abutting newer subdivisions that have been established for Castle Ridge, and one to the south there, they're residential districts. But this property was never really absorbed into that at the time. I guess they either didn't want to sell the property or just did not get absorbed into it. So really the likelihood of these properties being absorbed into these subdivisions is for residential uses is probably not going to happen. And as far as them becoming investments properties for future residential, it's probably unlikely also due to the nature of being on a major roadway and really wanting to, we've had the same problem in a couple of 2 or 3 different areas of the city with the same situation that has happened. 11 years ago when I came to work here, it was occurring on North Goliad, just north of downtown. There were several homes there that were starting to deteriorate, and some of those are historic properties there. A number of the property owners did come to us and ask us to find some mechanism that would allow them to reinvest in the properties and bring them back up to something that they could actually utilize, not just for residential, but for some other uses. At that time, we did research some other cities and found these sort of another word, transitional zoning and transitional things that you could do to keep the nature of the homes intact and make improvements, but to offer them some other uses there that would get investment and get it to where the properties would be improved. We've had some success on North Goliad with several of the homes there that were renovated because of that reason. You've seen some of the uses. We do have offices. We do have some limited retail. We do have I know there's a hair salon. It's been very successful for renovating that home on the north end, and several homes have done that. Again, the property across the street from Brookshire Shopping Center, same situation. We put the underlying zoning of residential office there, and then with a number of homes are all pretty much rental properties through there that were deteriorating and really needed some improvement. And the ability to allow somebody to come in and create an office and the ability to also live there has created a fairly much more valued property for the city and aesthetically much better than what was happening to those particular homes. Ms. Phillips will tell you the same thing in her presentation. That's what's happening with these houses up here, or at least her home, that it's becoming deteriorated. It's very difficult for her to reinvest in something that really she can't get the rent value that she would need to do that. And the restrictiveness of the residential office does restrict these properties to what they can do. We also currently now, which we didn't have several years ago, we're overlay districts. There's an overlay district up here that also requires much stronger landscaping requirements, lighting requirements, signage requirements, as far as building materials, several things that have to be adhered to be able to establish any kind of business in there. Along with the fact that they do have to put parking in, they do have to accommodate some driveway issues that we would have with TxDOT and how these properties could even develop. So there are a number of hurdles even to be able to do this. But we feel like that this is a very restrictive zoning, and the nature of these properties as an entryway into the city, that we would certainly want to see some improvement if we could get some improvement. So I believe that Ms. Phillips is coming to you to ask that question. This is a public hearing. We did send out notices to 29 property owners within the area. We have received 2 notices in opposition to the request. The opposition doesn't constitute more than 20%. And with that, the Planning and Zoning Commission did hold a public hearing on June 14th and reviewed this, and they had a recommendation to approve by a vote of 4-0. And again, in this public hearing, I'm glad to answer any questions of staff.
Not seeing any lights or questions of staff, I will go ahead and open the public hearing and ask the applicant to please come forward.
Misty Phillips, 2008 South Lake Shore, Rockwall.
Any other comments you wanted to provide?
No, I just own the 4037, and I'm just gonna speak for myself on, it's just making the entrance of 4037 more presentable. And we're just gonna look at putting uses of what can go in there, residential / office. And I just wanna see, do you have any questions for me?
I don't see any other lights currently at this time. Again, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council, please feel free to.
I'm at 4037, I know there's other two people for 4031 and 4035 if they would like to speak also on what they're planning on doing to present to each of you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Again, it being a public hearing, if the other two folks would like to come forward, feel free to do so.
If you want to.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
My name's Nellie Mills. I live in the center part of that property. And I really don't see any other.
Can you go ahead and give me go ahead and give me your address?
Oh, 4035 North Goliad.
Thank you.
And I really do need to sell. And it's gonna be almost impossible to sell it for residential. And I'm 82 years old and I can't live by myself anymore. And I really do need to sell it. And like I said, I really don't see any other use for it. It's becoming impossible to live there on account of the traffic. And I can't sell it to people with a family because of kids and pets and things on the highway. So I appreciate you, Bill, voting in my favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, this is a public hearing. We're still open. Anybody else in the audience that would wish to address council? I think we're looking to see if there was someone else. Misty, is there somebody from the left still over there?
I was just getting her to sit down.
Okay.
Helping her to sit down.
Ma'am, are you?
I was hoping to.
Yeah, please, come forward.
The last spot isn't working, so-
Okay, that's fine.
My name's Jennifer Damon. My family and I live at 519 Sellers Court in Rockwall. We're at the bottom of your screen, and my fence line backs up to the southernmost property in question. And while I will admit my own personal preference would be not to have a parking lot right behind my fence, more than that, we haven't been given a definite plan for the property directly behind me. I would hope that if you were going to rezone that area, that there would be a plan in place. I attended the P&Z meeting the other night, and while the members were kind enough to explain the limitations to me, I didn't necessarily feel like I was given an assurance of quality back behind me. Without a plan, I can't be sure that what shares my backyard with me is going to be something that is successful, is appropriate for the area that my kids run into to pick up baseballs. I just want to make sure that before it is rezoned, that there is a good, solid, and hopefully successful plan for that property prior to a rezone. So I hope that you take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Again, we are still in a public hearing. Come on. She beat me to it here to the right. I got you right behind her. Go ahead, Shirley, go ahead.
I'm Shirley Black, 5510 Canada Court, Rockwall, Texas. I'm in that district on the opposite side. That whole district should go ahead and be zoned as RO. I took one RO, and I agree with Misty. Thank you, Misty, for what you did, and thank you all for considering this.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Yvonne Sullivan. I live at 521 Sellers Court. My property does back up to the southernmost plot there. I agree with everything that Mrs. Damon said. I am not thrilled to have businesses in my backyard. We live in a residential district. That's where we want to live. That's where we purchased our homes, and I would like to see it stay friendly and residential and calmer. We do have traffic problems, we do have dirt problems, we have noise problems, we have all the things that go with backing up to a highway. My property line, I should say my backyard, is much closer to the highway than any one of those 3 properties. And the other 4 properties that face or back up to 205 beside me there, before you come into Harlan Park, they are also much closer to Highway 205, and we deal with it. We have fences, and I have a fantastic, great backyard, and I've learned to zone out a little bit of noise. The pool sweep keeps the dirt going, and that's just kind of how you deal with it. But I'm not crazy for lots of cement, lots of parking lots, lots of extra noise. I'm not crazy to lose my night sky. I love to sit out at night and watch the stars. We still have the ability to do that out there, and it's great. And I would very much like to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a question, Ms. Nielsen.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to direct this to Robert. Can you ask for a plan before you zone?
Well, I don't think these are existing homes that are out there, and you know, the thought process is that they would convert those existing homes into some sort of office development. That's what occurred in all the other districts. So to have a specific plan, I mean, the plan would only be that we would look at probably some sort of parking layout on this thing. We don't have a parking layout on this yet. Can
that southern site be divided?
Yeah, it could be subdivided. I mean, I don't necessarily they'd subdivide any further to the south, but to the north part of it, as you're looking at it, there's more property on the north side of it that could possibly be subdivided. Yeah. Some limitations are going to be driveway access. Sure, TxDOT's not going to allow too many driveway accesses in there. It's going to limit what they can do out there from an access standpoint.
So they're not going to get more driveways than they've already got?
They probably won't get any more driveways than that. There's no way. And maybe less. Yeah, it's going to be difficult in the driveway situation. We'll have to talk to them, but they won't get any more driveways than what exists today out there. So to get another business in there with a driveway on its own would be almost impossible.
And we wouldn't allow that without its own driveway, or would we let them?
We would. There had to be some shared access. That's the only way we would be able to do that. Yes, ma'am. It's too dangerous out there.
Thank you.
Public hearing is still open. Anyone else wishing to address council?
Mr. Mayor, one thing I neglected to say, I think it might add some light on it. The requirements, there's buffering requirements for these properties too, fences and landscaping. We would look at that during the site planning part of it. There would be additional, if there was a business to go in there, we would require additional landscaping and even additional fencing around all these properties to provide that buffering between them and the residential. And it's in our code, residential adjacency standards.
Thank you, sir. Not seeing anyone else that would wish to address council at this time, I will close the public hearing. Rest of the council's feet for action. Council, what's your pleasure? First line, Ms. Nielsen.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. We're familiar, we've worked with Ms. Phillips before, and she's done an excellent job on North Goliad with the homes that she's renovated there, and they're much nicer structures, more attractive than they've ever been, and I don't know that we've had any complaints about traffic or parking or any of that stuff. Misty's just always really worked well with the city, so, and I appreciate that, Misty. And I, you know, while I understand about the new neighborhoods, I do, there just isn't any other way for these folks to really move out of that property there. That's not residential property anymore, and it's not their fault that the city grew like it did. It just grew. And so, and when you have rooftops, I've learned that you attract retail to town. That's what brings it, that's what brings business here. So I'm prepared to make the motion that we approve Z2011-011 in the North Goliad District.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I echo Margot's comments, and Missy does a great job. And you know, the area there, rest assured, with the residential office there, you're not going to see the traffic that you, with concrete and lighting problems, you might think. Actually, you're going to probably see less because those offices are going to probably be 9 to 5. So, with that, I second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Not seeing out of the lights, I'll offer some comments here before we go ahead and vote. I completely understand and appreciate the folks in the neighborhood speaking out as far as your concerns. The added advantage here is, in terms of approving, which I will go ahead and vote to support this tonight, is Misty and the quality of work and that she has done. She does have a proven track record. And you've heard, of course, obviously from Misty in terms of her ability to do something with the property she currently owns. We heard from one of the neighbors that lives down there in terms of her inability to sell it. So it's future residential, its future from a residential standpoint sounds very, very limited. And I do, again, going back to the credibility that Misty brings to the project, and as the Mayor Pro Tem said there, as far as hours are concerned, as far as its usage is concerned, I think that I feel pretty confident that you'll be pretty pleased in terms of the direction with this property. So. I'm gonna let you go ahead and do it.
Well, I'm not the expert in lighting, but Robert is. Would you talk about the new lighting standards so that it goes down, it doesn't?
Well, yeah, none of the lighting can be reflected up, or all the lighting has to be pointed downward, and we do have limitations on light standards. And generally, these uses that we've seen in our other RO districts, they almost don't use any lighting in the parking lots. And their businesses are usually over with in the evening, and there's no outstanding lighting out there.